Boys be
Be
boys.
boys. It's okay. Be boys. It's nothing wrong with being a boy.
You old transphobic, ugly, slew-footed ass bitch. I can't believe you. This is a 33-year-old man, by the way. Whoa, this was somebody, Xavier said that. Man, mind you, me and Xavier goes to the same gym. I do want to know, with trans kids existing, with trans people existing, why does that bother this right side so bad? Xavier, let me say this to you, babe. You're connecting trans people to pedophilia. Why is it so easy for MAGA people to come and pick on trans people so quickly?
Hey cousins, happy Tuesday. So as y'all recall, just a couple weeks ago, Nicki Minaj completely broke the internet, shattered everyone's mind, had me clutching my pearls and gasping for air when she went on stage with Mrs. Erica Kirk. Now, in my humble opinion, I do feel like everything that she went on stage and talked about were quite positive things to talk about that everybody should be able to agree on. I feel like everybody should be able to agree on, we are allowed to ask questions and we need to remind people of that we are allowed to think for ourselves. That's a great thing to love being in this country. But also the bigger picture of things she was talking about is like we need to fight against the persecution of Christians. We shouldn't be allowing people to get murdered because of their religious beliefs. She talked about things like we shouldn't be putting the weird social pressures on children to be divided in the way that they are. And that included, we should stop pressuring kids to transition, which again, I feel like that should be common sense, but also things like we shouldn't be telling a little black girl that you have to hate white girls in order to love yourself and vice versa. So with all the positivity that she went on stage and spread, of course, there has been an onslaught of negativity that has come with that. And some of it is actually so suspicious and so clearly paid propaganda because you even have Billboard, for example. Billboard went as far as lying and saying that Nicki Minaj got so much hate that she lost 10 million followers on Instagram after being on stage with Erica Kirk. But you can debunk Billboard with Billboard because places like Billboard also reported back in October when Nicki Minaj's account was initially deactivated. So no, you can't lose followers when your account is deactivated. And Nicki did not delete her Instagram because of backlash about Erica Kirk. But they posted that article at least 3, maybe even 4 times. Like, it's actually mind-blowing to me that Billboard would just continuously double and triple down on, as well as many other outlets, they would triple down on this lie about Nicki Minaj, but that's what happens when you dare to speak the truth. Now, someone who I don't think is paid to hate Nicki Minaj, but I do think is a bit hypocritical in his rhetoric without realizing it, is this popular YouTuber named Zachary Campbell. And now we're going to get into all of that and why I specifically want to talk about Zachary Campbell. But first of all, y'all know the vibes. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Welcome to Respectfully. So here's the tea. Zachary Campbell, believe it or not, is one of my favorite YouTubers. I have been watching Zachary Campbell since I was in high school. His music reactions, he's known for like these over-the-top theatric reactions to all these different artists. He critiques them. He has these things called Skype calls where he essentially is explaining to them as if he's their PR manager. And Zachary Campbell is such a inspiration to what I do that he doesn't even know this. I quote him on stage every time I give a speech. I always say, if you don't know my name, never see my face, I'm Xaviaer DuRousseau. I actually got that from Zach Campbell. So that's how long I've been watching Zachary Campbell. Now, again, I don't even think I've told him any of this, but we are actually, I would say friends, but at least acquaintances. We see each other at the gym all the time. And every time we see each other at the gym, we have a kiki. We catch up on like different music artists that we like. We talk about pop culture. We barely have touched on politics a little bit, but we haven't gone super in depth on it. We follow each other on Instagram, so I don't know what he sees from me, what he doesn't, but he called me out. Oh yes, he dragged me by my I won't say by my lace front, but I'm not Jay-Z. He dragged me by my scalp on his channel, and he also has been coming very hard for Nicki Minaj. And I have a lot to say about it because I do think that Zach Campbell is a good person. I just think that he is very self-unaware of the hate that he is spewing. And while he has tried to defend people and defend certain ideas and narratives, what he's actually doing is extremely counterproductive. So I clipped together a few pieces of the things that Zach was saying, because again, it's like hours and hours worth of footage of him crashing out about Nicki Minaj, some of him coming after me. But I want to give you guys the gist of it so that you can see what it is that he had to say.
Them white folk don't like you at all, bitch. Them white folks can't stand your black ass. And here you are.
You will not judge that. Sister. Thank you.
Your sister? You called that bitch your sister?
Boys.
You called that bitch your sister?
Be boys. Amen.
Boys be
Be
boys.
boys. It's okay. Be boys. It's nothing wrong with being a boy.
You old transphobic, ugly ass, slew-footed ass bitch. I can't believe you. You can hate me all you want, bitch, but I will never try to tell you who to be and how you need to be. If you want to express yourself like the bad bitch that you think you are, you do that.
So let's start with this whole narrative that those white folk don't like you at all. Can we please stop perpetuating this narrative that white people just hate black people by default? It's like, that is so tired and late. That is so ridiculous at this point. If you go up to just about any white person that you know and tell them that, hey, this other white person just called me the N-word with a hard R, that white person is going to be more mad than you probably would have been. And then they're going to be all up in that person's face. Why? Because racism is not normalized anymore. Racism is like the main thing that everybody collectively hates. And then it's so hypocritical to me how black people will get mad because don't associate me with the hood rats and the hood rattery going on. Don't associate me with the burglars and the thugs out there. But then in the same breath, you get mad at white people for people that don't even exist anymore. You get mad at white people because what you assume their ancestors did. And it's like, oh, you feel like white people were supposed to feel guilty for slavery. Even at slavery's peak, only like 7% of families nationwide actually own slaves. So more often than not, you're not even talking to the descendant of a slave owner. So it's like, to me, that is just reeking with hypocrisy. And that mindset particularly pisses me off because I grew up being indoctrinated with that mindset for far too long, where I was told that I'm not supposed to trust white people, that white people are these horrible people. And like, now looking back on it, I'm like, that was so counterproductive and hateful for no reason. And all you're doing is creating the vortex of black and white people hating each other back and forth, because white people are getting back to the point where they have an aversion of being around black people because they can't win. I just reposted this chart where it's like, no matter what white people do, it's like they get deemed racist. So it gets to the point where white people just don't even want to have to interact with black people because they don't know what part of the runaround they're going to have to deal with that day. And then you go up there and you call Erica Kirk out of her name. What did that woman do to you? There's no reason for you to sit there and be mad. You're so gagged that Nicki Minaj and Erica Kirk call each other sisters. They've gotten really close over the last few weeks. And it's like, you know what? There are people that you will call your brother and your sister and your cousin, and you just met them. So it's like, because it's a black and a white person, that's a problem now? Oh, but if Chappell Roan, who literally wipes the behinds of minority groups to make herself seem so self-righteous, she comes up to you and like thinks that you're her brother, you're gonna be like, hey sis, why? Because she agrees with you? God forbid Nicki Minaj has an opinion that's different than yours. Then you got mad at Nicki Minaj for saying the boys be boys thing, and that's still blowing my mind, because there was also this viral post that was going around of being like, oh, Nicki Minaj says boys be boys and these are her fans. Notice how they're still boys. Or this whole narrative that's going around of people attacking Nicki for saying that, it's like, that is actually rooted in homophobia, because all of these boys in this photo, they're still boys. No matter, like, yes, they are more effeminate, but they are still boys. Nicki Minaj was not saying that every man out there needs to be this militant man. She is surrounded by gay men in her whole career and in her personal life. So she obviously doesn't have some issue with homophobia, but what she's saying is that we need to stop putting this pressure on little boys that they need to transition if they're gay or feminine. That is crazy. Like, Zach, is it not weird to you that there are cartoons with trans flags for like 5-year-olds? Why is a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old even having to worry about their gender expression and identity? That is bizarre. And the reason why there is this narrative going around that it is very much still linked in pedophilia, it's because why are you talking to children about sexuality in this capacity? That is bizarre. You should not be having conversations with children about them being uncomfortable with their genitalia. Like, no adult should be having that conversation with a child besides maybe even their own parent, or definitely only their own parents. And it's like, at that point, I think there's a lot more that you need to unpack, because why is that child having those questions at such a young age? It's not okay to normalize these drastic procedures happening to these kids, and then you're saying that it's gender affirming care, but all you're doing is telling the kids that they need to be uncomfortable with themselves rather than growing to embrace themselves and who they are. There's more support for people being taught to embrace their unibrow than there is for people to embrace their own genitalia. It's like shaving off a unibrow, that can come back. Shaving off your dick, it's not coming back. So it's like, I don't understand why you don't understand that.